Still centered? Okay. Here's the story. You want, Wells Fargo wants to loan you the money at 6%. The downside of that is the secondary market, the investors, they can have other returns and you're greater than 6%. So the investors say, you know what? We will buy it if we can get a 6.5% yield, 6.5% return on the money. Well, now we have a disconnect, don't we? The investors want 6.5%. The bank wants to loan you the money at 6%, or you want a 6% interest rate. And so how are we going to make the investors happy? We're going to buy the sufficient number of discount points to make the investors happy while still getting the loan at 6%. So the question becomes, when all is said and done, discount points are just pieces of 8. How many eighths will it take to get us from 6 to 6.5? Here's my prediction. Some of you look at that and say 4, and of course you are correct. Some of you look at that and say, what the heck is an eighth? Because it's been a while since you had to deal with fractions, okay? I promise you, it will never be any more difficult than a half, a quarter, or an eighth. So what I want you to have is some way of determining how many eighths it takes to get from here to here. For those of you that are math savvy and have dealt with fractions recently or are comfortable with fractions, 6 1/8, 6 2/8, which is the same as 6 1/4, 6 3/8 to 6.5. If you're not comfortable with math, you can always try the bunny hop method. The bunny hop method works like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 discount points to get from there to there. Now, I'm going to show you another method in case you're not happy with the bunny hop method. I'll show you the way that you learned in middle school, and it's always correct to do it that way. It just happens to be the most difficult way. As long as you can look at those numbers and jump out there and say 4, you're fine. I'll give you an alternative method. But let me ask you this real quickly. If you borrowed $230,000, if the loan amount was $230,000, can someone tell me how much those 4 discount points cost? I'm guessing $9,200, is that right? $9,200? Yeah. Remember, if 1 discount point costs 1% of the loan amount, then 4 discount points cost 4% of the loan amount. How many would 2 cost? 2% of the loan amount. How many would 3 cost? 3% of the loan amount. Okay? Remember that for a little bit later today. In this particular question, if the loan amount was $230,000, they cost $2,300 apiece. Therefore, 4 of them would cost $9,200. Questions or comments so far?
So you're saying to buy 4 discount points, you plug in 4%.
Right. Now keep going with that philosophy, Zeke. What did that get you? In this scenario right here, what did that get you? It got you a 6% interest rate instead of a 6.5% interest rate. Why? Because you simply prepaid the investors $9,200. So let me ask you this question. Is it worth it? It's hard to say. If you ever pay discount points, you always ask the lender, what is the break-even point? Typically, in this scenario right here, knowing no more than we know, it would probably cost 9 to 10 years to return your money on these discount points. So you say, is it worth it? Well, it is if you're going to live in the house longer than 10 years and stay in that loan for longer than 10 years. In some other cases, if they incentivize the loan, it's possible that your break-even point could be maybe 4 or 5 years out. But just ask the lender, what's the break-even point? At what point did it justify me paying the discount points? 5 or 6 years. Well, I'm only going to be there 2 years. You know what you'd be better off doing? Just take the higher interest rate. Just take the higher interest rate. Okay? Now remember, your discount points, you can actually write them off as well. So it would be tax breaks just at different times. This one would spread your tax break out. The discount point, you'd get it all up front. But you have to come out of pocket with $9,200. So when the lenders do the break-even point, they actually have a fair stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting to ask them the question and their justification. Now keep in mind, you don't have to perfectly understand the concept of discount points, but here's my leave on discount points. You know what they do, as far as I'm concerned? They bridge the gap between what the market will bear and what the investors demand. That's what they do. If you just want a one-sentence version of this, they bridge the gap between what the market will bear and what the investors demand. Okay? And then finally, if it has been a while since you have messed around with fractions, let me give you a method. It's the longest way of doing it. It's probably the most complicated way of doing it. It just happens to be right every time that you do it. These questions are really going to break down as to how many discount points do you need. They'll give you two different interest rates, and I'm going to go ahead and give you the most difficult example of this. If you can get the most difficult example right, then you're golden. If the bank was making the loan at 5 3/4 and the investor was demanding 6.5%, how many discount points? And please, if you already know this, don't shout it out. We're doing this for those that are less inclined. How many discount points will it take to bridge this gap? And another thing you have to do about discount points on the exam is don't assume that the question is going to have any basis in reality. I have seen one answer where the answer was like 7 discount points. Well, I'm not going to go out and buy 7 discount points today in 2014, but it's a test question, so we're just seeing if you understand the competency. Okay? For those of you who have not dealt with this in a while, let me remind you of how you convert 3/4 and 1/2 to eighths. Because remember, discount points are pieces of 8, right? So what I want you to do is before you start the problem, just go ahead and convert everything to eighths. 5 3/4 converts to 6/8, and here's why. Whatever you have to do to the bottom number to make it 8, do also to the top number. So therefore, 5 3/4 becomes 5 6/8. Everybody see where I got that from? Whatever you have to do to the bottom, do also to the top. And then you need to turn this into a, I don't know, if anybody's been in school recently, let me know what this is, but I think it's called like an uncommon fraction or something like that. Multiply the bottom number 8, which is always going to be 8, times the whole number, and add the top number. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 6 is 46. So therefore, there are 46 eighths. What's that called? Somebody that's been in school recently? You at NC State. What's it called? Improper fraction. That's what they're known as. Let's do the same thing over here. Whatever I have to do to the bottom number, I do also to the top. So 6.5 becomes 6 4/8. And then we do the same thing. 8 times 6 plus 4. 48 plus 4 is 52 eighths. And for the less mathematically inclined, while you might not automatically know the difference between 5 3/4 and 6.5, you'll certainly know the difference between 46 and 52. How many discount points does it take to bridge the gap? 6. If you wanted to do the bunny hop method, you could have said 5 7/8, 6. 6 1/8, 6 2/8, 6 3/8, 6 4/8, and you still get the same 6 discount points. Now, what I need to know is if all of you have a way of getting from 5 3/4 to 6.5 that lands you on the number 6. Does everybody have that? If you do, you are golden, because that is as complicated as it'll get. You know why it's as complicated as it can get? It changes from one whole number to another whole number, and from one fraction to another fraction. That's as complicated as we can make this question. Okay? You got it? You have discount points? All right. Then we are finished with discount points. Bing, stop the tape.